A 9-year-old boy just wanted his baseball back. But what he found inside his father's locked barn was a 6-year-old girl chained to a bed, crying, starving. What began as a simple game turned into the unraveling of a family's darkest secret, one that had been buried beneath floorboards and smiles for nearly a decade. Who was this girl? Why did she look like someone Jack had seen before? And why did their father vanish the moment she was discovered? But the real horror? It wasn't just about one missing girl, because inside that barn, they found evidence of something far worse. Something that turned a missing person case into a nationwide manhunt. Watch till the end, because the truth behind that barn will stay with you long after the video ends. The summer air hung thick over the dusty Kansas fields, buzzing with the lazy hum of cicadas and the occasional chirp of distant birds. 9-year-old Jack Holden stood barefoot in the backyard of his family's farmhouse, his face flushed with exertion, a cracked red baseball bat clutched in his small hands. "Last pitch," he shouted to himself, tossing the ball high into the air, winding up like he'd seen the pros do on TV. The bat cracked against the ball with a satisfying thwack, sending it soaring, higher than any before. But instead of arcing back toward the yard, it curved right. Jack's heart stopped as he watched it disappear over the faded wooden fence that bordered the family's old barn. The barn. The one his father had forbidden him to enter since he was old enough to walk. "That's not a place for kids," his father, a strict, flinty-eyed man named Bill Holden, had always warned. "You stay out of there, hear me? You got no business poking around where it's not safe." Jack had always obeyed. Until now. He hesitated only a moment, eyes darting back toward the house. His mother was inside, vacuum humming faintly behind the windows. His dad had left at dawn for town. Jack took a breath and pushed open the weathered gate. The barn loomed in front of him like an ancient beast, its red paint long since faded to rust. It smelled of age, wood, dirt, and something else he couldn't place. Jack stepped inside, the heavy barn door creaking ominously as he pushed it open. Dust motes danced in the sunlight, slashing through warped slats. The place was darker than he expected, filled with rows of stacked crates, covered tarps, and half-broken tools. But there was no sign of the ball. Or was that it? He spotted a flash of red near the far corner and darted toward it, weaving through the maze of clutter. As he reached down to grab the ball, he heard it, a sound, a whimper. Jack froze. The barn fell silent again, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums. Then, whimper. It wasn't an animal, it sounded like a child? Jack turned slowly, following the sound to the back of the barn where a tall wooden wall, almost like a partition, had been built. A large iron padlock hung on the door, rusted but clearly still used. His pulse quickened. "Hello," Jack called, voice shaking. Another soft cry. He scrambled backward, scanning the area, and spotted a gap in the wood just wide enough to peek through. His fingers trembled as he pressed his eye to the slit. What he saw would haunt him forever. A small girl, maybe 5 or 6, was lying on a narrow cot. Her wrists were tied with rough cloth, and her ankles were bound to the bedposts. Her blonde hair was tangled, her face streaked with tears and grime. She turned toward the sound of his breath, her eyes wide and terrified. "Help," she whispered. Jack staggered back in horror. This couldn't be real. A child? Here? In his barn? He bolted out of the building and sprinted across the field, his heart hammering like a drumbeat in his ears. His mother saw him from the kitchen window and came running, wiping her hands on her apron, panic rising in her voice. "Jack, what happened?" "There's a girl in the barn," he cried, pointing. "She's tied up. She said help." His mother blanched. "What? Are you sure, Jack?" But he was already pulling her hand, dragging her toward the barn. By the time they reached the door, her hands were shaking. Inside, the barn seemed quieter than before, Too quiet. Jack led her to the back wall, but when he pointed to the door, the whimpering had stopped. "I swear, Mom, she was right there," Jack said, peeking through the slit. Nothing. His mother pressed her face to the gap, squinting into the dim space beyond. She stepped back, brows furrowed. "I don't see anything." No, she was tied up," Jack insisted, panicking. "We have to open it." She shook her head. "That padlock hasn't been touched in years, sweetheart. Your father said it's just an old storage room." "But there's a girl. We have to call the police." His mother crouched to his eye level, voice gentle but firm. "Honey, I believe you think you saw something, but maybe it was the shadows. You've had that wild imagination since you were little. Remember the time you thought there were wolves in the barn?" Jack stepped back, stunned. "But Mom..." She sighed and stood. "Come on, let's get you some water. We'll talk to your dad when he gets home." But Jack's eyes remained on the door, because he knew what he saw, and she had said help. That night, Jack barely slept. Every creak of the house felt like footsteps in the hallway. Every whisper of wind outside his window made him think of the girl's voice. Soft, broken, terrified. Help. He could still see her pale face in the dark behind his eyelids, those hollow eyes silently pleading. By morning, Jack had made up his mind. He needed proof. If the girl was still there, he'd find a way to show someone. Anyone. His mom had called his dad, of course. Jack overheard her on the phone. "He swears he saw a girl in the barn," she said, her voice hushed and shaky. "Yes, I told him it's just junk storage. He's still spooked though. Yes, I know. We'll talk when you get home." Jack sat quietly at the table, poking at his cereal while his mind raced. His father would be home by late afternoon, and when that happened, the door would stay locked forever. He had one chance. The sun was directly overhead when Jack returned to the barn with a flashlight, a crowbar from the shed, and his father's old Polaroid camera. The silence inside was worse in the daylight, as though the barn itself was holding its breath. He approached the locked back room slowly. The padlock hung stubbornly from the latch, orange with rust. He fit the crowbar underneath and pried, the metal groaning in protest. The lock cracked open. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow hallway of sorts. The smell hit him first. Damp, musty, and something else beneath it, something sour. He stepped inside. The flashlight beam swept across a small room, low-ceilinged and cramped. The bed was still there, metal frame, frayed mattress, but it was empty. No girl, no ropes, just silence. Then he saw them. Small things. In the far corner, barely visible, a pair of shoes, pink, tiny, caked in dust. He stepped closer. Beside the shoes, a child's drawing, crumpled, half torn. He picked it up. A barn, drawn in thick crayon strokes. A small stick figure behind bars, crying. Above it, in shaky letters, "Help me." Jack's hands trembled. This wasn't his imagination. He turned on the Polaroid and snapped a photo of the room, then of the shoes and the drawing. The camera whirred each time, printing out the evidence in slow, quiet clicks. As he slipped the photos into his backpack, a noise startled him. A floorboard creaked behind him. He whirled. No one. Only darkness. He ran. That night, his father came home early. The screen door slammed behind him with its usual bang. Jack was at the table, arms crossed, photos laid out in front of him like a poker hand. His mother looked up nervously from the sink. "Bill, we need to talk." Jack didn't wait. I opened the locked room. His father stopped cold. "What did you say?" "I broke the lock," Jack said, standing. "There was a bed and shoes and a drawing. There was a girl, Dad." His father's face darkened. Slowly, deliberately, he stepped forward and picked up one of the Polaroids, the one of the shoes. For a moment, there was nothing, no expression. Then he crushed the photo in his fist. "You went where you weren't supposed to go," he said, voice low and trembling with rage. Jack's mother stepped between them. "Bill, he's scared. Why are there children's shoes in there? Why is there even a bed?" Bill didn't answer. He turned and walked into the hallway. Jack heard the sound of a drawer opening and the soft click of metal. When he returned, he was holding a hammer. "You disobeyed me," he said, glaring at Jack. Jack's mother's face went pale. "What are you doing?" Bill didn't answer. He stormed out of the kitchen and out the door, across the yard toward the barn. Jack and his mother watched from the window as he entered and reappeared minutes later, with the Polaroids, the shoes, and the drawing in a trash bag. He poured gasoline over it, lit a match, and watched it burn. That night, Jack sat on the edge of his bed in silence. His mother stood in the doorway, unsure of what to say. "He says it was just junk," she whispered. "Old furniture, some trash we never threw out." "But what about the shoes?" Jack asked. "What about the drawing?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But we can't just pretend this didn't happen." They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Jack spoke. "She was real. I saw her." And in that moment, something in his mother's eyes changed. "Then we'll find her," she said. "We'll figure it out." But neither of them could have predicted what they would uncover. 2 days passed. 2 days of silence. His father didn't speak to them much, just grunted his way through dinner, vanished into his office, and locked the door behind him. The barn remained untouched. His mother's attempts to call the police were met with polite disinterest. "No real evidence," they said. "The boy saw something strange. Might have been a prank. No girl reported missing." But something kept gnawing at Jack. The girl had looked familiar. Not a stranger exactly, more like someone he should have known. Her eyes, wide and watery, felt familiar in a way he couldn't explain. That night, he wandered to the attic. His mother had said that was where she kept all the old family boxes. Baby clothes, photos, dusty keepsakes from when he was born. The single hanging bulb flickered above as he opened box after box, searching for something. He didn't know what, not exactly. Then he found it. A photo album, blue cover. Caldwell family, 2009, scrawled in faded Sharpie across the top. Jack flipped through it. His own baby pictures, his mom holding him in a hospital gown, his father grinning proudly. And then he found her. Not a photo of the girl tied to the bed, but a drawing. In crayon, taped inside the album. A child's picture of 2 children. One taller boy with brown hair, one small girl in a red dress. Underneath, in crooked letters, "Me and my sister." Jack blinked. He turned to the next page, another drawing. A girl again, slightly older this time, with brown eyes and 2 pigtails. Written below, "Happy birthday, Maddie." Jack's blood ran cold. Her name was Maddie. The next morning, Jack showed the album to his mom. She sat frozen at the kitchen table, staring at the drawings. "Who is Maddie?" he asked. Her face paled. Her hand trembled as she touched the crayon drawings, as if they were made of glass. "She was your sister." Jack's heart dropped. "What?" "She was before you were born," she whispered. "I got pregnant at 17. My family didn't want me to keep her. But I did. I tried. We lived with your grandma for a while, and then your dad came into the picture." Jack sat slowly. "What happened to her?" His mother stared at the wall, her voice barely a breath. "Bill said he'd take care of everything, that he'd help. But after we got married one day, she was just gone. He told me she'd been put in foster care, that it was the best thing for her. I was too scared to ask questions." Jack's chest tightened. He whispered, "That girl in the barn, she was Maddie. Tears spilled down her cheeks. God, all these years. They stared at each other in stunned silence. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. His father's behavior, the locked barn, the fury when Jack found the room, his mother's silence about her first child. He needed answers. He waited until the house went still. No footsteps, no creaking floorboards, then slipped into his dad's office. The door was locked. But Jack had learned from the barn. He grabbed a hairpin, twisted it, jiggled the lock. Click. The door creaked open. The office was clean, too clean, every paper stacked, every drawer labeled. But Jack wasn't looking for order. He was looking for secrets, and he found one. At the back of the bottom drawer, hidden under tax documents, was a manila envelope labeled in red ink. DNA, Caldwell. Jack slowly opened it. Inside were printed reports, clinical, precise. He didn't understand most of the terminology, but one line stood out, clear as day. Madeline Caldwell, confirmed biological daughter of William Caldwell. Second paternity test confirmed with Jack Caldwell as biological sibling. Jack's hands shook. His dad knew. He knew Maddie was his daughter, and he'd locked her away like an animal. Jack stuffed the envelope in his hoodie and slipped out of the office, heart pounding in his chest like a drumbeat. He didn't sleep that night, and neither did his mother once he showed her the papers.